Senate Majority Leader John Thune is vowing to preserve the filibuster as Congress convened on Friday. Thune made the pledge in an address to lawmakers in Washington. "One of my priorities as leader will be to ensure that the Senate stays the Senate. That means preserving the legislative filibuster," Thune said. Republicans hold the majority in the Senate after sweeping to victory in November's election. The South Dakota Republican also paid tribute to former President Jimmy Carter, who died last week.
Thank you. Mr. President, before I begin my remarks, I want to mention the very deadly terrorist attack that took place in New Orleans in the early hours of New Year's Day. This ISIS-inspired attack took the lives of 14 innocent victims and injured at least 30 others. My prayers today, along with the prayers of so many Americans, are with all those grieving the loss of a loved one and with the injured and their families. In Las Vegas, law enforcement agents are working around the clock to understand the motivation of an Army soldier who blew up a Tesla truck in front of the Trump Hotel on the same day, injuring 7 others. We expect our federal, state, and local law enforcement to pursue every lead so that the American people understand what led to both of these attacks. Mr. President, I also want to mention the passing of former President Jimmy Carter, who died peacefully on December 29th at his home in Georgia at the age of 100. He was governor of Georgia, President of the United States, but was perhaps even better known for the work that he did after leaving office to promote peace and help those in need, most notably through his decades-long work with Habitat for Humanity. I will have much more to say about President Carter next week, but for today I just want to extend my condolences and my prayers to his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren as they mourn their father and grandfather. Mr. President, I want to welcome members to the 119th Congress, particularly those freshman senators who took the oath of office this morning. And congratulations to the new Secretary of the Senate, a great South Dakotan, and the new Senate Sergeant-at-Arms who are assuming their roles today. I am grateful for their service. Mr. President, the words of the oath, which we hear at the start of each new Congress, are a reminder of the profound responsibility with which we have been trusted, and that is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And it is the solemn responsibility of those of us here in Congress to preserve our Constitution, to guard it against enemies both foreign and domestic, and to ensure that it continues to stand, so that our nation continues to stand as a bulwark of freedom and human rights. Unfortunately, today there are a lot of people out there who would like to see the Senate turn into a copy of the House of Representatives. And that, Mr. President, is not what our founders intended or what our country needs. And one of my priorities as leader will be to ensure that the Senate stays the Senate. That means preserving the legislative filibuster, the Senate rule that today is perhaps the greatest impact on preserving the founders' vision of the United States Senate. It also means restoring the Senate as a place of discussion and deliberation. And that includes empowering committees, restoring regular order, and engaging in extended debate on the Senate floor where all members should have a chance to make their voices and the voices of their constituents heard.
Emergency crews arrived to a chaotic and gruesome scene in a Honolulu neighborhood after a large New Year's firework tipped over after being lit and ignited a fiery, shrapnel-studded blast that killed 3 people and injured more than 20 others, several of them critically. 2 women died at the scene and a 3rd woman died at a hospital, authorities said Wednesday, as they implored people to abandon their New Year's tradition of setting off fireworks across the city. Officials promised tougher penalties for illegal fireworks. Hawaii Governor Josh Green graphically described the deaths in a news conference Wednesday to emphasize the potential danger of fireworks. The level of the explosion also caused some damage to people's internal organs, he commented on Thursday, in an interview with Honolulu TV station KGMB/Hawaii News Now. Some of the more than 20 people taken to hospitals with severe burns and shrapnel wounds included children, said officials who had not yet publicly identified any victims, including those killed. Police were investigating whether charges for the person who lit the firework near midnight were warranted, Honolulu Police Chief Arthur Logan said. The blast happened at a 3-story home with a bottom-level carport. Piles of debris, including bundles of blackened firework mortars, could be seen in front of the house in Wednesday's daylight. The explosion broke windows across the street. It happened when a lit bundle of aerial, mortar-style fireworks called a cake tipped over or fell off a table and fired sideways into crates containing additional fireworks, which then exploded, officials said. The cake's rounds could be separated but had been lit as a bundle of 50, part of what officials said was tens of thousands of dollars worth of fireworks at the home. Ambulance crews arrived but had to triage separate and treat victims with the worst injuries first several houses away because of parked cars and crowds on the streets, Honolulu Emergency Services Department Director Dr. Jim Ireland said. Some people nearby continued setting off fireworks even as blast victims were being taken to hospitals, officials said. The neighborhood is near Honolulu's International Airport and a joint U.S. Air Force and Navy base and a little more than 2 miles east of the USS Arizona Memorial, which honors sailors who died in the attack on Pearl Harbor that drew the U.S. into World War II. A 4th person was killed in a different fireworks explosion elsewhere on Oahu, officials said. At least 4 other serious injuries occurred in unrelated fireworks accidents overnight.
I was sitting in the trunk. I just hopped out of the trunk and took behind cover while everything was going off. They usually like to host every year. They're pretty good with like handling and everything, but I guess this year was just not so good. A firework exploded like on the ground level, so it was not in the air. That's when it just came flying. Stuff just started getting out of hand, and that's when a bunch of fireworks started lighting up. There were like burns. A lot of people were like doing like 1,000-yard stare, just walking in shock. Didn't know what to do. They seemed kind of helpless and out of it. But I'm glad that the EMS and first responders were on scene to take care of and do what they need to do.
The level of the explosion also caused some damage to people's internal organs.
The 3-year-old was one of the first patients that they came across, and they had that young boy out of there within about 10 minutes. We gravitate to the kids, and especially if they're critically injured, we're going to take them first.
What can you say about this boy and the family?
That we're heartbroken for the family. The boy may or may not survive, and everyone should hear that and know that when they light off an aerial firework, if it goes wrong, a child could be nearby. The 6 patients will likely go over to Arizona by C-17 flight. I authorized that last night. They are stabilized right now. We are putting together burn teams.